and Health. Principal Secretary Susan Mochache suspended Kenya Medical Supplies Authority CEO Jonah Manjari, suspended Director of Commercial Services Eliud Muriithi, and Megascope Healthcare Limited are among senior public servants and entities adversely mentioned in the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority preliminary investigation report into the KEMSA 7.8 billion shilling irregular procurement. Seth Olale also reports that 52 persons of interest have been grilled by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and documents relating to the procurement and payments are currently under analysis.
The entire procurement process for COVID-19 medical supplies at KEMSA was massively flawed. In its 39-page preliminary investigation report on COVID-19 tenders at KEMSA, the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority established that letters from Ministry of Health, intent letters from suppliers, and commitment letters from KEMSA CEO to the suppliers determined the procurement proceedings for the irregular tenders. Out of 141 tenders of the first batch of the procurement documents that were to be submitted to PPRA by the close of business on 5th August 2020, only 116 documents were submitted on 13th August 2020, 8 days later. The PS in the Ministry of Health provided KEMSA with a list of items to be procured, their quantities, prices, and firms to be invited. In addition, PS Mochache instructed KEMSA to disregard all other requests made in relation to COVID-19 as they had been captured.
When you come out to this committee and you tell us that you found out that the ministry directed, the PS, you've actually mentioned the PS, directed KEMSA to purchase from certain suppliers, it's a very serious finding which we want to proceed with, so that we know who is actually telling the truth or not, and who is not telling the truth.
In response, Jonah Manjari Mwangi, Chief Executive Officer KEMSA, issued commitment letters that did not contain clear specifications, despite deliveries being based on the letters. The product specifications provided by the KEMSA CEO to guide the bidders were notably not competitively generated. Further, there was no evidence of qualification criteria for the suppliers identified as strategic partners by Government of Kenya through KEMSA. It is also emerging that some items were in the same procurement plan with different unit costs. For instance, pipette tips pack of 960 units retailed at both 19,425 and 9,660 shillings. The procurement plan approved for PPEs was 4,350, while the estimated unit cost of PPEs was 9,000 shillings. The distribution of opportunities to supply KEMSA with COVID-19 related items was skewed to favor some suppliers without evidence of justification. For instance, Megascope Healthcare Limited was awarded 3 tenders for supply of face masks, whereas Ziwala Limited was awarded only 1 tender for the same item. KEMSA did not demonstrate how bidders obtained information on the availability of the opportunity to supply the subject request. Some of the deliveries were made 1 month after issuance of commitment letters, while others have not been delivered to date, casting doubt on the justification of the urgency of direct procurement. The tender documents issued were not prepared in the standard format as prescribed by the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority. In most of the tenders reviewed, the invitation to tender was sent to bidders after commitment. The suppliers were identified as strategic partners to KEMSA without evidence of qualification criteria used for identification. There was also no evidence that all COVID-19 related health products that were paid for were actually received. Appearing before the National Assembly Committee on Health, KEMSA Board Chairman Kembi Gitura has admitted to flaws in the procurement process.
If mistakes were made, I went by saying that 2 wrongs do not make a right. And we must find a way to mitigate the losses that could come to KEMSA because of the stocks that we are now holding.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has forwarded to the DPP the list and names of public servants implicated in the KEMSA heist. This is after 52 persons of interest were interviewed and recorded statements at the EACC headquarters in Nairobi County.
Sat Olale, NTV, Nairobi.